morning. Today's day 42. Topic I'm going to call failing upwards. So, failing upwards is really about establishing baselines. I've oftentimes wondered about the cyclical nature of success and failure, both in my personal and professional life. I've always been intrigued by why some companies or some people that seem to be always failing are actually finding success. I mean, what is that? That seems like backwards, but it's actually rather true. I think that people that are pushing to new heights, that's obviously good, but not if they're falling back to what a worse condition than they were before. But if they're falling back to a higher baseline, a better foundation, then they slowly improve. So this is this concept of failing upwards or failing back to your baseline, whatever that baseline happens to be. So why do some companies, despite appearing mediocre, find success? Well, I've seen this happen quite often, but what's happening is, yes, companies and people are failing. They're failing frequently and they're failing often. But they're not, when they fail, they're falling back to a position, and that position is getting slowly better over time. So we all experience these cycles of highs and lows, highs and lows. I know I've done that my whole life. I've had ups and downs, ups and downs. And I've oftentimes struggled with that. And my initial attempts was to try to create this disciplined schedule to where I could force myself to be even and consistent. And I would create methods to do that, but it never works. I'm just not able to overcome this natural cycle that always happens, ups and downs. What gave me comfort finally was to realize that it's not that I'm trying to prevent the ups and downs. Those are always going to happen. But what I'm doing rather is establishing a new baseline. And so if I can fall back to a core set of behaviors, then I'm not falling so low. So every time I keep trying to establish a new standard for myself, a new set of behaviors that keeps me consistent and whole. So that way when I do crumble and fall, which is frequent and often, I crumble and fall back to a new established baseline, which raises my standards for myself. So that has actually helped me. Now, how do you establish a baseline? Well, I think that's the role of habit formation. The hard work of growth is establishing habits and culture. Within a company, it's establishing culture. Within yourself, it's establishing an attitude. Same thing, probably. But it's really establishing a core set of foundational habits that you are rock solid in. Now, if you slowly build those habits into a baseline performance for yourself, that way when you fall back, you're at least falling back to that. The way I look at it is the things that I do daily, weekly, monthly that are consistent take me a long time to build. I'm just not that good at building things like that. But the ones that I do build are rock solid. I mean, they took me a long time to build. And now that they're there, they just don't go away. So when I have that, usually my cycle downward comes after a great success. I do something great or something I think is great. And then this letdown comes. And that letdown usually drops me down to something. Well, in my younger days, I would just collapse completely. And that was just the wrong approach. What I needed to do is allow myself to collapse. That's okay. Just collapse to a foundation of core habits that keep me whole and sane. So I think by establishing baselines, core habits, core functionality in our lives, then we can have sustained growth and resilience as we go up and down throughout life. So rather than worrying about how high your ups are or how high your ups are, I think you should go ahead and let yourself live life and enjoy life and do things that are great or things that are fun. But just make sure that when you come down from that, or when you fail again, which is inevitable, that you don't fail so bad that everything crumbles, rather than you fail to a baseline of core behaviors that you do all the time, and then slowly over time increase the baseline. That way, when you fail, it's not that bad. Like, for example, in my running right now, I have a baseline amount that I run pretty much weekly or every day. And that's slowly increasing over time. Now, I allow myself to go do a weekend run or do something, or do a little extra, or do a little bit more, or whatever. Or go do a race or whatever. I allow myself to go do that. But when I come crashing down after I'm done, which is going to happen, I don't allow myself to go lower than the new foundation I've set for myself, the amount of time I've committed to running. So anyway, I think this foundational building for habitual behaviors in life is the key to failing upwards.